Have you ever looked at your bird and thought, they seem fine? They're eating. They're alive. That has to be enough. And you're not wrong to feel that way. But here's what most owners never find out until it's too late. Birds are one of the most emotionally complex animals you can share your home with. And they are also, by instinct, wired to hide every sign that something is wrong. That means your bird could be struggling for months, sending signals every single day, and you would have no idea. Not because you don't love them, because nobody told you what to look for. We're going through 5 of them today, and a couple of them, especially the one about what your bird does with their feathers when they think you're not watching, are going to completely change the way you see your bird. Let's start with the one hiding in the loudest moment of your day. 1. They talk less and nobody notices. Have you ever noticed that your bird used to be noisier? Maybe they'd chatter when you walked into the room, whistle when you opened the door, call out when you moved to another part of the house. And at some point, you're not sure exactly when, that got quieter. Not silent, just less. Most people take the quiet as a good sign. They figure the bird has settled in, calmed down, found their rhythm. Some owners feel genuinely relieved by it. But here's what's really happening. In the world of birds, silence is not contentment. Vocalization, chattering, singing, contact calling is how birds maintain their social bonds. It's how they say, I'm here, and are you there, back and forth, all day long. That sound isn't noise. It's the conversation. And when it fades, it's not because they've finally relaxed into the relationship. It's because something in that loop quietly broke. Behavioral research on companion parrots consistently identifies reduced vocalization as one of the earliest signs of chronic stress. In the wild, birds from social species, parrots, cockatiels, budgies, do not go quiet unless they are ill, frightened, or cut off from connection beyond what they can bear. Silence in a flock means something is wrong. Your home is their flock. The same rule applies. That quieter bird you got used to, that's not your bird finally feeling at home. That might be your bird slowly giving up on the conversation they were trying to have with you. And later in this video, we're going to get to the one sign that looks almost peaceful from the outside. The one most owners never catch at all, even after years. Stay with me on that one. 2. They stop asking you to come closer. Does your bird still move toward you when you approach? Do they lean forward on the perch, shift their feet, stretch their neck just slightly in your direction? Or has that gradually stopped, and you just stopped noticing that it stopped? Most people read a bird who stays still as a bird who is calm, independent, not demanding. And in a pet, not demanding usually feels like a good thing. But here's what most people don't realize. Birds are not built for indifference. They are built for connection. In the wild, a bird who stops seeking closeness with their flock isn't being self-sufficient. They are in distress. Reaching toward the ones you're bonded with is how birds express safety. When your bird stops leaning toward you, they are not becoming more comfortable. They may be becoming less hopeful. Research on highly social bird species, including African gray parrots and cockatoos, shows that these animals form genuine bonds defined by consistent proximity seeking. Studies suggest that when those behaviors fade in a home environment, it often reflects a bird who has learned, over time, that reaching out doesn't reliably lead to connection. They tried. The response wasn't there, and they adjusted. That bird, sitting perfectly still at the back of the perch, isn't being low maintenance. That bird already tried moving toward you. And somewhere along the way, something taught them it wasn't worth the effort. I wanted you to come to me, they're saying, in the only language they have. I just stopped believing you would. And there's one physical thing your bird does with their body that tells you exactly how long this has been building. We'll get to that in just a moment. And hey, if this is changing the way you see your bird right now, hit that like button and subscribe. That's how we get these videos to more bird owners who want to understand their bird the right way. 3. Overpreening is not what you think. Have you ever watched your bird work through their feathers, running each one carefully through their beak, smoothing everything down, and felt something like reassurance? Like the fact that they're taking care of themselves means everything must be okay? Most people see preening and think health. A well-groomed bird is a content bird, and most of the time, that's true. Normal preening is a good sign. The problem is that most owners can't tell where normal preening ends and something much more serious begins. Here's what most people don't realize. There is a point where preening crosses a line, when a bird starts returning to the same patch of feathers over and over, pulling them out or chewing them shorter without fully removing them. A behavior called feather barbering. Something else entirely is happening. It's not self-care anymore. It's self-soothing that has gone further than it should, and it almost always means your bird is carrying something they don't know how to put down. Feather-destructive behavior is documented in a significant portion of captive parrots, and studies in avian veterinary medicine make a clear distinction between this and normal grooming. By its repetitive nature, its focus on specific areas, and the way it tends to escalate over time. In the wild, this behavior is virtually non-existent. It emerges almost exclusively in captivity, and researchers associate it with chronic stress, insufficient stimulation, or prolonged emotional deprivation. And here's where it gets harder to look at. The feathers are just the part you can see. That extra time your bird spends at that one spot on their chest or under their wing isn't them being meticulous. That's your bird trying to manage something on the inside by doing something to the outside. That's not grooming. That's a bird doing the only thing they know to make the weight of it feel smaller. 4. Their posture is telling you everything. Have you ever glanced at your bird sitting on their perch, feathers slightly raised, eyes soft, not doing much, and thought they just looked cozy? Settled in for a rest? Most people read a fluffed, still bird as a resting bird. And sometimes that's exactly right. The problem is that most owners don't know there's a difference between a bird fluffing up to nap and a bird whose feathers have been sitting like that most of the day, most days, for longer than they can remember. But here's what's really happening. In the wild, a healthy, comfortable bird is upright. Feathers tight against the body, eyes tracking movement, alert and present. A bird who stays persistently fluffed, feathers slightly elevated at the chest and shoulders throughout the day, body held lower on the perch, weight unevenly distributed, is almost always conserving energy because something is draining it. And what makes this sign so easy to miss is that it doesn't arrive overnight. It shifts over weeks. A small change, held quietly, for a long time. Avian veterinarians use posture as one of the primary, non-invasive indicators of bird welfare, and behavioral researchers distinguish between the acute version, a bird who is suddenly unwell, and this subtler, chronic form that builds gradually and sits just below the threshold of what most owners think to worry about. This is the thing your bird's body has been holding that reveals how long it's been building. A single feather raised is nothing, but feathers that have been sitting like that, day after day, in a bird who used to hold themselves differently. That is weeks of something your bird never found a way to tell you out loud. I've been carrying this for a while, their posture says. I just didn't know how to make it louder. 5. They're still bonded to you, and that's what makes it matter. What if the hardest part of all of this isn't that your bird is unhappy? What if the hardest part is that they're unhappy and they are still choosing you? Most people assume that an animal in distress pulls away, that if something were really wrong, they'd know, because their bird would want nothing to do with them. So when their bird still steps up onto their hand sometimes, still watches them from across the room, still turns their head at the sound of their voice, they read that as proof. The bond is still there. So there can't be a real problem. But here's what that actually means. Birds, especially parrots and other deeply social species, do not have the ability to simply detach from the person they've chosen. Their attachment doesn't operate the way ours sometimes does, where hurt leads to distance. Once a bird has bonded, that bond holds, even when their environment is making them miserable. Even when every behavioral signal in their body is saying something is wrong. The reduced calling, the stillness, the feathers that sit just slightly wrong. They will still come to your hand. They will still watch for you. They will still be there. And that loyalty, that absolute, quiet, unconditional loyalty, is exactly what makes missing these signals so painful once you finally see them. Research on parrot cognition, including landmark work studying the emotional and cognitive lives of African gray parrots, has shown that these birds possess emotional depth that most owners are genuinely surprised by. Studies on captive parrot welfare suggest that parrots can experience prolonged psychological distress, states that researchers describe as functionally similar to anxiety and low mood in mammals, while still maintaining their social bonds with the people they live with. They don't leave. They don't escalate. They just go quiet in the ways this video has walked you through. The calling fades. The leaning forward stops. The feathers shift. The posture changes. And they are still, the entire time, waiting for you to look up and notice. That's the sign from the beginning. The one that looks almost peaceful from the outside. A bird who has settled into the background, who isn't causing any trouble, who seems fine. That is the one most owners never catch. Not because they stopped caring, because their bird never stopped loving them enough to make it obvious. Your bird doesn't need you to be a perfect owner. They don't need you to have caught every signal before today. They just need you to keep looking. Because the fact that you're here, watching this, already means you're exactly the kind of person they chose correctly.